Before Detroit gathered in stadiums, before it gathered in arenas, before it gathered in convention halls, it gathered in theaters. Not small rooms, not practical rooms, but vast interiors designed to overwhelm the senses. Places built to feel larger than life, because daily life in Detroit often felt smaller, louder, harder, and more repetitive. Velvet seats, gold leaf ceilings, marble staircases that led nowhere practical, only upward. Detroit didn't just watch movies, it entered them. By the 1920s, Detroit had more active theaters and movie palaces than Broadway in New York. Not concentrated in one district, but embedded throughout neighborhood corridors across the city. This wasn't excess, it was response. A response to labor, to noise, to migration, to the grinding repetition of industrial time. And when the curtains closed, something far larger than entertainment disappeared with them. This is Streets of History. I'm Chris Hubel with History Loves Company. Each week, we slow down and walk the places that shaped Michigan, not just architecturally, but emotionally. Because where people gather tells you exactly who a city was trying to be. Between roughly 1915 and 1935, Detroit experienced one of the most aggressive theater building booms in American history. This coincided with explosive population growth driven by automobile manufacturing, long, physically demanding factory shifts, massive migration from the American South and from Europe, and rapid urban density without equivalent leisure infrastructure. For many Detroiters, life followed a rigid pattern. Work, transit, home, repeat. Movie palaces were designed as escape machines. Their guiding philosophy was simple. If the outside world was harsh, the inside should feel impossible. Architects borrowed freely and deliberately from everywhere. French Renaissance palaces, European opera houses, Moorish temples, Gothic cathedrals, fantasy architecture unconstrained by realism. These buildings were not minimalist. They were theatrical in themselves. Every element mattered. Lobby proportions, ceiling height, carpet density, light temperature, the choreography of arrival. The building prepared the audience for transformation. Detroit did not invent the movie palace, but few American cities embraced it with this level of scale, density, and emotional ambition. One of the most famous and haunting examples was the Michigan Theater, opened in 1926 at 220 Bagley Street. Designed by Rapp and Rapp, the most prolific theater architects in America at the time. The Michigan Theater was designed in the French Renaissance Revival style. Inside, it featured crystal chandeliers, grand marble staircases, ornate plaster ceilings, seating for more than 4,000 people. This was not a neighborhood theater. It was a destination. The lobby alone rivaled European civic buildings, intentionally signaling that Detroit belonged to the modern cultural world. By the 1960s and 1970s, downtown foot traffic declined. Suburbanization accelerated. Single-use downtown buildings struggled. The theater closed in 1976. Instead of restoration, the auditorium was demolished. The interior was gutted. The space was converted into a parking garage. Cars now sit where audiences once stared upward, in awe. The original proscenium arch still frames the space, a ghost architecture enclosing rows of vehicles. This is not preservation. It is survival, and it remains one of the most jarring examples of adaptive reuse in American architectural history. Not every story ends this way. The Fox Theater opened in 1928 at 2211 Woodward Avenue, designed by C. Howard Crane. The Fox is a fantasy palace. Moorish motives, Asian influences, Baroque ornamentation, seating for over 5,000 people. This was spectacle at civic scale. By the 1970s, the Fox struggled, like nearly every theater in the city. But in 1988, Mike Ilitch purchased and restored the building. Today, the Fox operates as one of Detroit's premier performance venues. It survives because someone decided that memory was worth saving. Across from Grand Circus Park stands the United Artists Theater. Opened in 1928, designed by C. Howard Crane. Unlike standalone theaters, this one was integrated into a larger office tower complex, signaling how entertainment and commerce once coexisted vertically in Detroit. Its Gothic Revival interior featured pointed arches, dramatic vertical emphasis, and cathedral-like spatial rhythm. Seating capacity, approximately 2,000. After closing in 1971, it sat dormant for decades. In 2015, it reopened as part of a major restoration. This building proves something critical. Loss was not inevitable. While downtown palaces dominate memory, most Detroiters experience cinema in neighborhood theaters. The Adams Theater opened in 1917, seating around 1,500 people. It served shift workers, families, as well as everyday routines. It closed quietly in the 1970s and was eventually demolished. Little physical evidence remains. This is how most theaters disappeared. Not in scandal, but in silence. The Madison Theater opened in 1927 at Grand River and Broadway, designed by Rapp and Rapp in Spanish Revival style, seating for roughly 1,800. It closed in 1976 and was demolished a year later, before preservation gained momentum. These theaters were not neutral spaces. Black Detroiters were often restricted to balconies, to side entrances, or excluded entirely. Policies varied by theater, enforced both formally and informally. These were public spaces where social boundaries were reinforced, and sometimes challenged. When the theaters vanished, so did places where those lines were visible and contested. The loss was architectural, but it was also deeply social. Theaters did not fail because people stopped loving movies. They failed because cities changed. Television entered living rooms. Suburbs pulled audiences outward. Parking replaced density. Multiplexes outcompeted single screens. Maintenance costs soared. One by one, the lights went dark. Theaters weren't just places to watch films. They were places to be together in the dark, to imagine different lives, different futures. Detroit didn't lose its imagination. It lost its rooms for imagining. I'm Chris Hubel. This is Streets of History. And this is what we keep.